I'm Scott Matthews from Wayne, Arkansas. I farm in western Poinsett County. I grow rice and soybeans, usually in a one in, one out rotation. I have a farm that's north of Wayner and one south of Waldenburg. I've been a 12-time speaker at this conference, and always before I've spoke on conservation tillage. So this time they asked me to come back and speak about conservation irrigation. Well, what is kind of pertinent about that talk is that since the last time I was here until now, my north farm is now in the critical groundwater area. So irrigation is really come to the front on my operation. So I'm going to tell you about all these things you hear today. I've been using polypipe for 25 years. Rice irrigation practices, you hear MIRI all the time, the computer generated program, AWD. Now on my farm that's called AAWD. Because when I do it, it's accidental alternate wetting and drying. I don't mean to do that. Furrow irrigation, it's just exploded. Who had ever thought 10 years ago we'd be growing rice without a flood? That's amazing. So. And then most crops of the crop, we got Chris Henry in here and probably Greg somewhere. That's their thing and what they're going for, and it's important. But to me, it's important that I do that on every field on my farm every year. So, and the basis of my talk today is rethinking surveying. And rice has been grown in my area for 100 years. It's always been surveyed. It's always been watered with a flood irrigation. But I will tell you, in 2020 will be my 30th crop, and that seems kind of long considering I grew up in the fertilizer and chemical business. But I've never been happy with the levee. I've just always thought that it wasn't quite exactly right. Well, rice irrigation is a math equation. Now, I'd like to take credit for that. But how many of y'all know Mike Hamilton? Mike Hamilton was my county agent. We have a long history together, and now he is the Arkansas Division of Agriculture Rice Irrigation Specialist. Well, one day, and I've always been a doubter on MIRI. I mean, not really a doubter, but I just didn't like it. It just didn't work for me, it didn't flow. It seemed like the work was more than the reward. And it was one day, Mike had come out, and he's helping me. It's been several years ago. It was hot. It was Arkansas hot. It had rained, so it was muddy. The horse flies and deer flies and mosquitoes was bad. DEET was more of a sunscreen than it was a repellent. So me and Mike got in this discussion. No, we got in cussing. and before it was over with, I don't know how many of y'all know Mike, but his hand's like a bear paw. And he can't fold his hand up, and he took his finger and he pointed at me, and sweat was dripping off it, and he said, "Scott, this rice irrigation is a math equation." And from that day on, it actually changed the way I thought about designing my fields. So I thought, not necessarily that day, from that day forward, I said, well, how can I improve? If it's truly a math equation, I want to figure this out. I want to take constants out, It's always been good. Like I said, we've been growing rice for 100 years, been making rice and everything. But in the name of this conference, in irrigation conservation, I want to make the most accurate water application I can. Well, the first thing I do in my operation is we check every riser head. This is a bonnet. This is where our water source comes from. It's about a 6 to 8 foot tube. And this right here is your dial. We get this installed. We always wait to do it in the mud. You can do it any time of the year, but we always wait to do it in the mud. It makes it more fun. So we get this. We get this number right here, and I want to tell you that, like I said, my south farm has reservoir surface. It's 100% surface water recovery, permanent relifts. I have diesel wells. I have electric wells. I have natural gas wells. I have everything. You still need to check your flow. And it all starts with the flow. The second thing is, and this is a pet peeve of mine, especially in the year 2029, I want to have to see hands again. This yellow is a GPS shapefile of my field. of the accurate acres in my field. Say again, this is the GPS that I created with my tractor of the accurate acres in my field. I want to see how many people actually have this on every field they farm. You need to be doing that. I mean, if you don't do anything else from this conference, you need to go back and figure out how to GPS. You think about it, you can't call the plane, you can't call the ground rig. You're paid, I've never seen an FSA number that wasn't larger than the accurate acre that you're farming. Why would you want to pay more for crop insurance? This year you can update your yield farm bill. You can update, you know how hard it is to update you if they've got 4 or 5% more acres than you're actually growing? It's almost impossible. And you just think, in 2020, that's a personal thing. Now I want to say, this is the field we're going to talk about. And I'm breaking this down. This is a talk about micromanaging one field. This is not my hardest field to water, and it's not my easiest, but I picked this field on purpose. The water source is here. This is the northwest corner, and it drains out here, and the lines are diagonal, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But I want you to keep this in mind. So, we've got the flow meter. We know exactly how many acres in that field. I run John Deere. I'm not selling John Deere, it's just what I have. You can do it with TopCon, Trimble, or whatever. But I decided that I want to have the most perfect levee scenario in this precision level field. I want to create the levee design that matches my field. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to select this right here, A plus heading. You say, what's heading? Heading is the direction that your levee is supposed to run that you've had your field leveled. And so we're going to punch it in. And this field is 49.0749. He says, God, boy, that's a lot. Will it work? If I push in 49.000, will it work? Yes. Will it water? Yes. But the longer this levee is, the more it's going to be canting, one way or another. Whichever way the direction of your actual cut sheet from your level field is going to go. So, and a lot of the new systems will go 4 digits past. A lot of the old ones only go 2 digits past. But if you have those digits, it's very important to do this. And I'm going to show you why. Okay, this is actually a rice behind rice, which I do sometimes. This was the year before levee, and it was not put in with a GPS heading. This field waters from left to right. All right, so the water's traveling this way. This cut line is cutting on the GPS line, on the RTK heading. You see that right there? That's a pi. And even though that I spent the money, and I have leveled this field, I've actually surveyed it. I'm not going to say wrong, but I've surveyed it incorrectly. Because that right there is a high, and it's in the high side of the field. Because the water's going this way, and the levee's canted to the south. So the water always runs south. So this is an 8-acre levee. In theory, I just turned that in, added probably 6 more acres of pumping in this one paddy to make this high. Now, if you're interested in MIRI design, you're interested in AWD, if you're interested in most crop for the drop, this right here is what you've got to have. Because this makes your math equation better. All right, the next thing we do, we've got our heading, we've got our field, we go back to our Gen 4, and my levees in this particular field is 75 acres, or 400 feet apart. Now I want you to remember that 400 feet apart. 400 feet represents 2.4 inches in between levees. Okay, so we're going to plunge in this. You say, well, that's pretty common. It's got that. You can't really mess that up. Yes, you can. I'll tell you why. Year before, we came in here with a Trimble system, was in a hurry. Come in with a Trimble system. This is a double run levee green light. So it's perfect. Right here is the levee that was on the actual width of the field. We went out and measured it in 110 feet. The water source is over here. When we come out here, the water source was over here. When we come out with the Trimble system, made a couple circles, hit the high number, dropped down. Did this field water? Yes. Did this field yield? Yes. But if you want to set up a MIRI design and you've got precision level fields and you want a good math equation, these are the things you've got to think about and the things you got to do. So, We've got our court, we've got our heading, we've got our track space, and I've already told you that this is the shape file of the field. So we take the tractor, it's all on the screen. We drive out here, you know, here's the water source, here's the first levee. And we're looking at that, you know, what we're looking for is symmetrical. We're wanting to utilize what we've already spent the money for, leveling the field. So what I'm going to do with this tractor right here, I'm not going to just hop in here and build this levee, because it's 400 feet from here to here. I want to see what it is in the bottom. In the bottom, it might only be 75 feet to the bottom. If it is, you probably won't put it in. It won't water just exactly. It'll still water, still yield, it'll still work, but we're looking for a perfection. We're looking, taking the constants out of Masterclass. All right, so we're going to drive down here, and I'm going to show you this later. And this right here, I think, is my best slide. And this is, I want you to think about this. I'm in a 1-to-1 year rotation. This is 15 rice crop, 17, and 19. Okay, in 15, this was surveyed with the trimmer. Position level field, it starts here, runs out here. And you look at these levees, and you say, oh, Scott, man, you got a bad survey. Look at this, you know, that's horrible. No, this is good, this is better, and this is best. What happened right here is you're getting some satellite drift. You get satellite drift, you just do. At a certain time of day, you get more. But what you're also seeing is when he's running here, and you say, well, that's not right. If you remember, I said my levees were 400 feet in between the levees. He's running on a neutral right here. And that neutral could move 75 to 100 feet before it picks up that it needs to go back the other way. And the same thing right here. So we had 6 levees in this field in 15. It watered great. Used more water than we should. Yielded fine. So next year we got a little smarter. We thought, we're going to survey them, but we're going to A-B the lines. And where we come in, we say, we're going to take the survey mark, we're going to hit this one, hit the A-B instead of the A-B plus heading, and put them in. Well, we come up with 8 levees. You think, well, 8 levees on 75 acres is better if you're doing a master plan. Well, not necessarily. Because, see how little this levee is, the top levee? It's probably an acre there. And I noticed after we made this slide that I put 8 levees in. We didn't put that little one in the bottom. So really it had 9. But if you also notice, compared to this one that we're going to, the cant is off just a little bit. Now this, in 19, I'm very proud of this. All right, now you remember I pulled in here with the tractor. I'm looking at 400 feet. I've got the 49.0749 heading. I drive down, and all this is popping up on my screen. And I get down here, and it's not exactly right. My levee's closer to my pipe. All right, so I'm 400 feet on 2 10s. What I want to do, I'm going to go back to my width, my spacing, and I'm going to shorten that number up. And I'm going to sit there and bounce that number until I think I've got a symmetrical bottom and a symmetrical top. And this is all for a MIRI design.
Back.
Okay.
I don't know what you did.
Well, and just to show you how technical this is, instead of 400, I used 352 feet to create this design. Yeah. The next thing we're going to do, and this is all for MIRI, is we have to measure each individual paddy, the acres. Well, up until this year, I've always used Planometer. Great app. Everybody ought to have it on their phone. I use it almost every day, year round. But it's manual. You have to drive, hit a spot, hit a spot, hit a spot, and then it tells you the acres in that paddy. You write it down and you put it in your pipe planner or your University of Arkansas irrigation app. This year, before season starts, Mike Hamilton turned me on to Richard Pickett. Richard Pickett is with, he has P&P Consultant Drone Service. Okay? He said, Scott, I can fly your field and do your acreages in between your levees. Well, thank you. That's something I ain't got to do. And he said, not only that, I'm very familiar with MIRI. He said, I can do your MIRI design. I said, I really like it. I said, but before you say this, I said, I've got one field, and this is the only field I'm going to show you that's not this 75, okay? This is 114 acres, and it's one of the 2 fields I have that's not precision level. There's a water source right here, and there's a separate water source that's not connected to this one right here. I've been farming this farm for 25 years. If it wouldn't have been for Richard flying his drone and calculating each acre in this paddy, I would have not have broke this field. Being in the critical groundwater, I have to keep my wells isolated to an X number of acres. I would have not broke this field. I think this really shows what the capabilities of the drone is going to do in the future, especially. So let's go back to this. Let's see, I'm so, remember me telling you I wanted symmetrical design? Look how good that is. 13, 13, 13. And it's a diagonal rectangle. It's a diagonal rectangle. So I mean, if you had a diagonal piece of glass and you tilted it, with this being the northwest to the southeast, and you took it in your hand and you tilted it to the heading, that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. That right there is your most crop for your drone. It won't get any better than this design. So, we've done all these things. We did the flow meter. We've got our acres. We've RTK'd our symmetrical spacing levees. It's time, we got this messed up. It's supposed to be. We counted the acreage inside of each individual paddy. It's time to use one of these 2 programs. I like them both and I use them both. But it's just a matter of preference. So once we get past that, we enter in all the numbers. This is what Richard sent me back. This is the MIRI design, 75 acres, 14 gallons flow, 15-inch pipe. We need 2,903 feet. There's 1,320 feet to paddle, a row, so you've got to have 2 rows and 75 feet, 275 feet. It tells you how many blue gates you got. This is the blue gate we use, and this, a lot of people won't use these. They're skeptical of them. But I'm gonna tell you right there, that first levee, it calls for 3/4 of a hole. And this is the only way you can get 3/4 of a hole. If you punch an open hole, and the black holes represent just a hole, we don't put a blue gate in those, okay? And you say, well, you got 2 there because it's 2. We put one in just in case we need to calibrate. And you can come back and put them in. But when we get back to this, if you don't put this in, you'll regret it. It won't water absolutely perfect. There again, we're just trying to make this math equation as close as we possibly can. The other thing that the drone, farming and technology changes all the time. All the time. It changes. It used to change every 3 years, now it changes every year, now it changes multiple times a week. I'm not sure it don't change every month sometimes, but when Richard flew this for me, he also measured the length of my levee. So when I got ready to come back and spray my levees this year, I looked at this sheet and I needed a 4-acre load to spray my levees. This next year, we're going to incorporate a border pass, and right here will be the border pass on this. So the question I always get asked, and it's funny because Jason from Mississippi State, he mentioned this if he was at the noon luncheon about MIRI and what you save. And I was hesitant to put this, number on there because there's a lot of cases it's more than 40%. I mean, it's absolutely more than 40%. And especially when you really get it tweaked down. Establishing shallow flood. There's some things about a shallow flood that you just need. If you ever have to flush on my white dirt, the levees are powder thin. You don't put any more in a paddy than you need and goes right back down. Just as soon as you turn it off, the water literally goes to the levee furrows and the PTO ditches and drain out. You don't get any stretch on that young rice. And I'm a hybrid grower, so I have very few plants, and that's important to me. And I also need to save my levees for later in the year in case we do get a flood. Rainfall management. I think this is the most overlooked thing of MIRI. MIRI allows me, I can start it with them forecasting for rain. I don't have that bubble or that cascade in my field. I don't know how many times in my life I've been 3/4 or more across a 100-acre field, pushing a flood with not good water, catching rain, and a third of it run out the bottom. We just don't do that anymore. I mean, that's just not. I mean, we manage it. If you get up on, and you want to start it on Monday, you go out there and you look, and they got 80% chance of rain on Monday, on Wednesday, you can wait. Because you're fixing to water up each paddy at the same time. You're not going to have to be rushed to get to the bottom. You're not going to do the alternate wetting and drying accidentally. I love the top off quicker. I mean, that's just a fantastic tool. Each paddy, once you get your calibration, it's just very good. If any of y'all, I don't know how many of y'all use Twitter, but I'm on Twitter and I do a lot of stuff in season. I do harass some people when I'm not in season, but in season I do so what's going on in my farm. I try to tweet some about it all the time. And if you would follow me on Twitter, I appreciate it. But I'll take any questions or comments this time.
Can you see a yield difference between using this now post-back?
You know, we'll say no probably, but I mean, the water labor savings and just doing that much better job. I've raised really good rice without it. I've raised really good rice with it, you know, but it's just the management. It's where we need to be in 2020.
Scott's at an electric well, diesel well. I guess what I'm getting at, you have a way to track how much water you use the old cascade fashioned way on that field before you started doing it?
You know, I think it's about 40% reduction, about best we can tell, and that's just kind of going by memory and days, you know, on the isolated wells, you know. So much of my stuff is combination, you know, it gets in the gray area. We don't have a meter on every well. I mean, on every water source, you know. But it really is. It's amazing. It's amazing once you get an even flood, you get your spill set, and you have a perfect calibration. How easy it is to pump a field back up an inch and a half. It's really good. Well, thank y'all. Also,
what do you think most people's limitation is for getting into multiple? What do you think the biggest drawback to a new grower using it?
I think the uncertainty and just a little bit extra work, but the extra work pays for itself. I'm gonna tell you something. Poly's pipe will make you say things you can't take back. But in the end, the reward is worth it. This year, I had a hillside, bad hillside, 6 foot, and I'm not going to say the name tag, but it was ox pipe, and it blew up a day and a half, and had to pull it out of the field. And we went back with Delta Plastic, and Katie Womack came, and Richard came, my drone guy, and it was ankle deep mud. It was 110 heat index. And we went to a major effort to hand do this field. And we did, and the reason I wanted to do it, you know, a lot of people would have abandoned it right there and do flood irrigation. I wanted because I wanted that season long, if I needed to bump that hillside, you know, I wanted, there were 16 acres that had one levee in them. You know, I wanted this gate to do what it was supposed to, and it did. And it was one of my highest yielding fields too. Any other?
In that field, do you see any variability across the fields in terms of yield, top, bottom, middle, your yield depths?
I see some variability. We've isolated some spots. Can I go back?
Yeah.
Y'all care? I'm probably getting in the hearty. That's a good question, and I want to show you this. All right, this field is one of my oldest level fields in this right here is original cut, and this right here is the original cut. Well, just this last month and a half, time gets away, Richard come out and shot over here, and it was about 220, and he shot 2 acres right here, and it was 200, using my mill yield maps off my combine and where he had flown the imagery earlier in the year. Now, the first thing you want to say is, oh hell, it's a cut spot. It is a cut spot. But that right there on 400 feet is probably this much higher. Probably this much higher. Last place to get water. First place to get dry. Jared Harkey will tell you, you lose your nitrogen. I lost my nitrogen right there. I can make that work. I just got to do a little bit. But we are, Michelle, you are, and I think our next step is we're probably going to micromanage inside each paddy. I mean, that's on our horizon. We just really started this year. And any other questions?
Scott, one advantage with MIRI also is you can just put one gate per levee because you're really just using the gate as a dam instead of a...
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I double, if it's over 50 acres, I still double gate. And just because my fields are so flat, it'll boil the water the other end, you know. But that's kind of my, really 60 acres. If it's over 60 acres, I double spill gate. You're right though, in theory, you know, especially once you get your rice established and everything, but yeah. But I love, just like that hillside, that really bad hillside, I love being in the middle of that and they calling for rain and not panicking. Because I don't have that cascade flood. I can pull it. Or if I don't think it's going to rain, I can leave it going. I get an inch rain, just got an inch rain in every paddy. Just like my water is. So. Thank y'all.